Hi, everybody. Greetings from Denver, Colorado. I'm here on a writing sabbatical and diving into the literature about what really prompts deep and lasting therapeutic change. And one of the most important factors is that of insight. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. What do we mean by insight? It's a new and deep understanding of the self, attained after a deep emotional therapeutic experience. So we know that intellectual insight is not very effective in promoting change. But we also know that just feeling your feelings and having some sort of cathartic release really only affords a very temporary change, and it doesn't lead to lasting change. This is one of the things I'm concerned about as I continue to teach and train practitioners in ISTDP. Many seem to have the idea that just helping patients face their feelings is sufficient and is therapeutic enough. But there's actually not much empirical evidence to support that. Being in touch with feelings is a means to an end, not the therapeutic end. The end is this deep insight into oneself and one's own dynamics. So in particular, if we think about those two triangles, the triangle of conflict and the triangle of person, that is where insight really is essential. We must help the patient see the direct link between the suppression, right, the defenses against the anxiety-provoking feelings actually cause and perpetuate their symptomatic suffering and their various difficulties in life. So pressing to those links, and this is something Davenlu did a lot. He didn't just press for emotion, he pressed the patient to make these links. So for example, a case I did, about a year ago, with a man who had had severe depression with suicidal ideation and impulses back to the age of 5. And what we discovered pretty early on was a lot of suppressed rage toward his father that was getting redirected back on the self. And so as I helped him see and relinquish defenses so he could get in touch with this rage, he got mobilized and imagined punching his father. But then, got anxious and guilty about it and backed off from it. And I made some sort of comment like, but we know you must have wanted to be rid of him altogether. And he says, well, I wouldn't go that far. But what did I already know? I knew that he had tried to commit suicide on several occasions. So I said, but we know you were trying to kill yourself. And and before I could even finish the interpretation, he said, oh yes, I wanted him dead. I wanted him dead many times. In fact, I still do. Right? So this was a great example of how important it was to press to the link between his suppressed impulses, right, and the sadistic, and in this case, murderous impulse toward the other. It's not just about pressing to feeling, but pressing to make those links. And then later in the session, as he got into deeper contact with this murderous impulse, which was actually to strangle his father, he then said, oh my God, is that why I tried to hang myself? I tried to strangle myself on 2 occasions. So he then made that very, very crucial link. So that's the first kind of insight and linking that you want the patient to have, right, on those corners of the triangle, right? The anxiety-provoking, guilt-laden feelings that get suppressed, right? And those defenses then cause the very symptoms and suffering that the patient is coming for help for. And then the other really crucial insight, which again I think is getting neglected these days. It's like I even see teachers sometimes only showing the triangle of conflict and not the triangle of person. But these conflicts always exist within a context, right? And an interpersonal one. So it is crucial that the patient comes to really deeply understand and to have insight into how they have been repeating and reenacting in their current life unresolved conflicts from the past. And it turns out research by Johansson and his colleagues found that particularly for patients who had a history of very dysfunctional relationships and have personality disorders, working on that pattern in the transference is absolutely crucial for deep and lasting change. So that insight, the connections between what's happening in the transference, how that's linked to unresolved feelings from the past, and then also the patient seeing how they have been replaying those dynamics in their current life, is absolutely crucial for deep and lasting change. I had a great example of that very recently. I had agreed to do a trial therapy with someone, and they were in a different part of the country, so there was a time difference, and I completely screwed it up. I got it backwards, right? So instead of realizing it was 2 hours before her, I thought it was 2 hours after. So I'm going on my merry way, and then I start to get these messages, emails, aren't we meeting? What's happening? I'm ready. And I wrote back and I said, oh, this is the time that I had. And then I realized that it was actually my mistake. And so I said, I'm so sorry. And is there any way we can meet at that time? So she reworked her schedule in order to do that. So literally then from the first minutes, I said, wow, we've got to talk about, what happened and how you're feeling toward me, that I screwed up the time. And she said, oh my God, it's so interesting. Yeah, I was really upset. I started crying. And then she thought, did I screw up somehow? So even though it was clearly my mistake, right, she was starting to blame herself, right? Was it my fault, she thought first? And then she thought she had made an error with the payment on PayPal. And so she said, maybe you were getting me back. Maybe you were trying to teach me a lesson because I made a mistake with the fee. So right away, you see all of her defenses, right? This weepy, depressive affect, and then internalizing, and then externalizing and projecting. And so after she relayed this, she said, this is the exact pattern that happens with me and men, and that's why I'm coming to see you. So in a sense, already we were able to see from the first moment sort of this TC link, right? So I did quite a few rounds of restructuring, both in the transference to help her access this anger instead of going to all her destructive defenses. She was able to see how that was all happening in her current relationship. And then we were able to get to its origins in the past. Okay, so this is what we really mean by insight, these deep, deep understandings of the links and connections, right, between repressed feelings and symptoms, and also between unresolved conflicts in the past and what the patient keeps playing out. This is the repetition compulsion, right, doing the same damn thing over and over again. This woman was beautiful and intelligent, and yet she had a lifelong history of engaging with men who used and abused her over and over and over again. Why would she do that? Well, we got to the bottom of that and what she was repeating instead of remembering and facing and processing. So I hope you really take this message home with you, that it's these deep insights that are actually most strongly associated with therapeutic change. Alexander and French found this back in the 40s, and it has been reinforced and replicated over and over again In fact, there was a recent article by, I don't know if I'm saying the name right, McAlevey, Mick Alevey and Castanguay. But anyway, I can leave those links and also to Johansson's research. So I hope this is helpful to you. And I look forward to your feedback. Bye-bye.